Okay, yeah, I think it starts as soon as we push the button.
Okay, welcome from California. We made it home and wanted to thank you so much for your beautiful hospitality in Georgia. I hope that you can come to our home someday. We're going to be showing you our favorite dish, Puttanesca, and Roger is the chef. He will be walking us through the process.
Hi there. Well, as promised, yeah, I'm going to show you how to make a Puttanesca from start to finish. And our amateur videographer here will be shooting the video, and we're just going to try to roll through it in one highly imperfect take, and we might be able to get away with sending it to you without even any editing. So bear with us. It'll take about 15 minutes. It's actually 9 minutes to cook, but I'm just going to pontificate here. Since I'm on video, I can talk all I want. So we're going to start with ingredients for Puttanesca. So if you come over here, the first is the pasta. You might recognize this as the spaghetti that Costco carries. I know you have Costco stuff. This is their, I guess it's kind of their house brand. It's the one brand they've had for years. They sell it in packs of either 6 or 12 of these. I really like this pasta. It's also highly recommended by a friend of mine who is an Italian guy, and he moved to California, and he is now a winemaker as well as a cook. He says in Italy this is the best pasta you can buy, and in Italy it's also quite expensive. So we're actually quite fortunate that we can buy it here at Costco. Everything I'm going to show is for 2 people here. About 10 ounces. I can measure it by weight. Makes a nice hearty plate of pasta for 2 people. If you have smaller appetites, as we sometimes do, cut it down to maybe 8 ounces. So this is the first ingredient. I already have the water boiling. Almost boiling. I said this is a 9-minute dish, and I mean it. So I got to get this water boiling again, but from the time the water boils, it's 9 minutes. Believe it or not. Okay. Spaghetti goes in. I'm just going to give it a little stir. The water's not quite boiling, but close enough. Nine minutes. Let's get to work. I like to cook in this big cast iron wok. It's just a fabulous pan. You don't need it. You don't need the wok for anything. I use it for everything. The reason I like it is because you can have a very small amount of oil, and it'll still be deep enough in the center of the wok that you can saute up your garlic rather than having it spread out over a big flat surface. If you don't have a wok, I'll show you a good tip. This is what I do. If I were cooking it at our house, probably. Just take a skillet, and you have to jury-rig this a little bit. You can just prop the skillet on something so that when you put the oil in, it all collects against one corner of it. And then you can saute garlic and things like that with a very small amount of oil, because nobody really wants their dish swimming in oil, even though if it's good oil, it's tasty. It's not usually how we like to cook. So, back to more of the ingredients. The first ingredients we're going to start with at the 6-minute mark are some anchovies, about 3 fillets per person, so this is about 6 fillets here, and garlic. We really like garlic. So we use 3 or 4 fat cloves per person. If you're not that crazy about garlic, use a little less. If you like garlic, by all means, throw in more. We're not doing that tonight. Bella has band practice, and we don't want her French horn to be too odoriferous. chop up the garlic. Doesn't have to be super fine, however you like it. And we're also going to chop up the anchovy. With the garlic. Something I should have done as soon as I put the oil in. We have some crushed red pepper here. I like to put in a little over a teaspoon for 2 people. You want to start that in the oil first because the flavors from the red pepper are oil soluble, so this way they come out into the oil more. You don't want to burn them. So just let them sit in hot oil to the point where they're just bubbling a little bit. You definitely don't want to sear them. Okay, so we are almost at the 6-minute mark. So here at 6 minutes, the garlic and anchovies go in. See? And we're going to saute them until the 3-minute mark. So this pasta says cook for 11 minutes. I like to cook it for more like 9 altogether. And this way, if I screw up a little bit, I can cook them for an extra couple of minutes and they still won't be overcooked. I prefer not to have overcooked pasta. So I did screw up here. I had this burner on low. The water was boiling, and then I accidentally put the burner too low. So the water's not quite boiling. So this pasta might be running a little late here. So we might just give it an extra minute or so. So we're sauteing this. We want to cook the garlic until it's soft and fragrant, as they would say. We don't want to burn and char the garlic, because when you char garlic, it gets kind of bitter tasting. So we'll do this until the 3-minute mark. Now at 3 minutes, we do some other things. We have a little less than half a cup of Greek olives. You really want to use the Greek olives here, not the so-called ripe California olives. This dish really wants the sharpness of the Greek olives. So we're just going to very coarsely chop them, along with 2 tablespoons of capers. And we have some sun-dried tomatoes here. So I just want to talk a minute about tomatoes and Puttanesca. Recipes are all over the map. Some recipes have no tomatoes, and they let the olives and the garlic and the anchovies do all the talking. Some recipes are just glorious glorified tomato sauce with some olives and garlic thrown in. We don't want that. But what we do like is, for some tomatoes, I compare music to cooking sometimes. I like it with the olives and the garlic and the anchovies doing most of the singing. I like a little bit of tomatoes doing backup vocals, which means not a lot of tomatoes. They're just some flavoring that's thrown in. A few ways you can do it. If you have some tomato sauce, you can just throw in a few tablespoons of tomato sauce, just enough to color it up a little bit. If you have fresh tomatoes, especially what we call in California Roma tomatoes. In New York we call them plum tomatoes. You can just coarsely cut up a few of the Roma tomatoes and add it. Or you can throw in a handful of sun-dried tomatoes. So, the next action, we're at the 3-minute mark. The sun-dried tomatoes, olives, capers, all go in. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. Thank you. Bella's mostly out of action here because she's filming. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. in here. We're going to let that saute. Now, another thing here, the next ingredient for us is this cheese. Recipes never call for this cheese. This is our improvisation. This is called queso fresco cheese. It's a fresh Mexican cheese. It's available at any Mexican market. We love our local Mexican market. We are there all the time. So this cheese is kind of magical for this dish. It tastes like a mozzarella, but it's fairly firm. It's a little bit crumbly, a little drier than mozzarella, kind of airy. It has a consistency like Greek feta cheese. And one of the properties, I'm just going to keep talking about the cheese. One of the properties of this cheese and feta cheese is that it doesn't melt. So if you mix it in with something hot, it softens a little bit, it doesn't melt, it keeps its integrity, and it also soaks up the flavor of what you're cooking. Don't recommend trying this with mozzarella because mozzarella will melt and get all sticky, and the whole dish is going to turn into a gummy mess. So we're closing in now on the 0 mark. Going to throw in some water from the pasta here. And a dash of oregano. Not a whole lot. Just going to let this simmer. This will be really where all the flavor is coming from. I'm going to give this pasta just an extra minute or so here. Drain the pasta. So I'm going to take a measuring cup and reserve some of the pasta water here. Now I'm just going to let the pasta finish cooking in here for a minute or so. Now, despite the fact that I threw that water in there, half of it's already been soaked up by the pasta. And that's goodness. This pasta is soaking up all the good flavors. And I'm going to throw in just a little bit more of the pasta water. It's okay if it looks a little soupy. By the time you're done eating, most of this will have absorbed on the plate. And now the cubed cheese. I think I can kill the heat now. And we're going to stir that up, and you can see that the cheese isn't melting and running. And now we'll plate it up. Thank you. There you go, Curly. And just a little extra sauce for each of us. We didn't make any bread with this. Usually we have a baguette with it, but we're not completely hungry tonight, so this will be enough. But you like to have just enough extra moisture to dip the bread in. And just one last little thing to do here. I'm going to grate some Parmesan cheese. Haha. So, I think we did it all in one take. I hope it was actually recording all this time.
We'll find out.
So, bon appetit.
Cheers.
16